Hi, everybody. I'm Noelle Wynn. I'm the Director of Storage and Availability at VMware, specifically focusing on storage with VMware Virtual SAN, with vVols, virtual volumes, and object stores and other things that may come in the future. So with that said, let me get started. So today's agenda, I'm going to kind of go over the software-defined storage vision, talk to you about virtual volume, storage policy-based management, virtual SAN, and give some Q&A. Now, my presentation, I will try to dive a little deeper in certain areas to give you guys some extra insight. However, I can't dive into any roadmap NDA type of items on today's call, especially since it is recorded. But I will give you as much insight as I possibly can. So first, what is software-defined storage? For VMware, software-defined storage really addresses the storage challenges and tries to achieve the full potential of the software-defined data center. Our approach is really to focus on 4 pillars. The first pillar being compute, the next one being networking, the third being storage, and the fourth one being automation. And what we're really focusing on with storage specifically is with virtual SAN and virtual volumes is being able to apply automation and management tools to define criteria at the application level to the actual VMs and apply those policies utilizing storage policy-based management. Let me hit my next slide here. So part of storage is really focusing on, if I could use the word containers, being able to physically abstract and pool the actual physical resources, whether they be x86 servers, whether that be SAN and NAS, whether it be cloud object storage, whatever the case may be able to containerize each one of those things and make them seem like the same exact thing from a virtual data plane perspective, and then we'll apply policies to them. Let me see, my next slide might go further. Okay, so here we talk about the storage pain points of traditional storage and how it's proven in its trusted method of providing application level consistency to storage has a lot of pain points. And what we've seen in the past is really storage growths were due to over-provisioning, meeting SLAs, being able to handle capacity growth and data migrations, etc. So the most pressing issue wasn't really providing the storage, it was really providing the infrastructure for the unique capabilities that were required. And now with having the ability to apply management tools and various things to the complexity of storage, it was driving the cost of storage. So what we've done is we look at the current infrastructure as it sits today, and we look at how we can augment some of the costs associated with the things that people really need for capacity, for scaling up, for scaling out, being able to extend to the cloud, being able to create policy-driven control planes and have virtual data planes that are really virtual-centric to data stores, whether that be x86 server with vSAN, whether that's SAN and NAS using vVols, whether you're using vCloud Air and moving that over to the cloud storage, etc. So with the rapidly emerging applications with x86 servers, being able to bring in different devices, higher density, higher capacity, flash drives. As you've probably read in Information Week, which is technically roadmap information, that we are coming up with an all-flash array in the near future. So we will be utilizing for flash tier as well as persistent storage the ability to now utilize various different flash interfaces, whether they be PCI Express, NVMe, DIMMs, Ultra DIMMs, SAS or SATA, and then really being able to provision it so that we are abstracting and pooling the storage capacity and bringing it closer to the actual hypervisor, putting it in the direct I/O path in order to apply policies to the VMs that are sitting on the hypervisor at the VM level. With legacy models, the way that it works with SAN, NAS, and potentially all flash is when you're utilizing a particular device that has specific data services associated with it already, you have the ability with virtual volumes to apply storage policy-based management at the VM level and at the application level, but you also have the ability to use the extended data services capabilities. Therefore, if your particular SAN has in it replication, snapshots, array-based, whatever data services, you now have the ability to utilize both only through virtual volumes, which of course is a Q3 beta product today, so it will be in the next release, but it is in beta today. Okay, so the hypervisor opens up new opportunities as we've discussed. It sits directly in the I/O path. It has a global view of the underlying infrastructure. You have the ability to apply storage policy-based management specifically to your applications for Oracle, Exchange, SQL, etc. And now be able to apply specific policies. And once we introduce vVols as a product and not just beta, you now have the ability, when you're provisioning a VM, if you've used virtual SAN, you know that once you specify your storage policy-based management, you then say what data store has the ability to meet those requirements. And once you've specified, I want fault-tolerant policy 1, which is 2 copies plus a witness, if you then specify you want to have flash cache reservation at a specific percentage. Once you do those things, now you have the ability to then say which data store can meet these capabilities. And when you introduce virtual volumes for SAN and NAS, you will now be able to choose either vSAN data store utilizing the x86 server or SAN and NAS, and in the future you'll be able to do cloud storage as well, introducing an overall view with vCloud Air and vRealize Suite, as well as vVols and vSAN. You'll be able to specify where you want to place specific objects for specific SLAs, capacity, or availability. So the way this works for storage policy-based management is, with storage policy-based management, it's policy-driven at the VM level, and there are 5 different policies that basically fall under your capacity, your availability, your performance, your data protection, your security. In addition to that, when you bring it into virtual volumes, then you have the ability to utilize the natively represented external storage array data services and capabilities. So you will see when you're doing the actual configuration an additional 4, 5, or 6 options when you introduce vVols. So today with storage policy-based management, you see 5 options. Once you do vVols, you see the 5 plus the extra data services, and that's when you're provisioning. So storage policy-based management, it allows it to sit with the life of the actual VM, and you can change that policy at any given time. So you can change it in real time. You don't have to over-provision resources. Effectively, you're also building in data protection and fault tolerance because you're specifying how many copies are going to be available at any given point in time. Again, once we introduce vVols out of beta, you have the opportunity now to choose the data store that's going to meet that need, either virtual SAN or vVols, or again, object store. Let me just skip past these. These are a little redundant. So you do have the ability to do storage tiering with common control plane when we introduce virtual volumes. Again, you have the ability, like I mentioned, to do virtual SAN or vCloud Air. When you combine them all together, it really gives you an effective solution to be able to have policy-driven VMs and placement of those VMs based on the actual application layer. So individual applications control and monitor at the VM level, being able to specify where they go, where their location is, how many copies reside, etc. Also, while utilizing vCloud Air, you have the ability to do self-service consumption. You have the ability to create blueprints. You have the ability to specify where things are located, and you also have the ability to integrate OpenStack. And we do also have OpenStack for virtual SAN, and we have the ability to do this whole self-service consumption model by combining all of the products together. Now, there are many third-party API vendors that are working with us in order to validate their particular APIs for several things, for vSAN, for vVols, and eventually, other products like EvoRail, etc., and object stores. So we're working with the various different vendors to offer APIs and different solutions that will encompass everything from storage to data protection, etc. Okay. In addition to that, we also, because we are utilizing the VASA provider, we also have the ability to utilize Viper. And Viper Controller and Viper Data Services are really for third-party SAN and NAS and multi-hypervisors. So we can combine all of the goodness of what we just talked about with virtual SAN, virtual volumes, vCloud Air, and we can also integrate Viper utilizing the VASA provider and still control the actual virtual data plane as well as the data services, especially in multi-hypervisor environments. And so just in case you don't know what virtual volumes is, virtual volumes allows you to configure a SAN or a NAS and no longer have to really manage LUNs. You have the ability to integrate a couple things that you have to do in order to create the communication. The actual storage provider has to be set up. You create a container and you create the policies that are going to be based on the actual device. And the way the virtual architecture works is really it utilizes the central path of the VASA provider, which creates a central point for the actual storage itself, and then you can utilize the actual data services. Now again, from the VI admin's perspective, you can create templates first, and then when you're provisioning VMs, you apply the template for the SPBM policy to the VM, and then you specify which data store it sits on. And at that point in time, for virtual volumes, you now have the option to add SAN or NAS as a SPBM policy, just like virtual SAN, utilizing the virtual volumes, which again today is in beta, but you can sign up at the beta page, or it will be in the next release. So virtual volumes, today we have 29 partners. Again, it is in beta since Q3, and the partners keep growing, so there's probably more since this deck was created, and it will be in the next release when that comes out. In addition to that, we are going to extend the services with software-based data services with vSphere API for I/O filtering. That is also coming in the near future, which will give you the ability to use the third-party software data services as well. So you can utilize, virtual SAN, virtual volumes, vCloud Air, and other third-party data services that will be tightly integrated at the VM level. And virtual SAN. So just in case you don't know what virtual SAN is, I believe you all do. Virtual SAN allows you to utilize 3 hosts at a minimum. You can add more, up to 32 hosts, and utilize the internal disks that are inside the x86 servers. You need at least 1 disk group, which consists of 1 SSD and 1 HDD, but can contain up to 7 HDDs per disk group, and you can have a maximum of 5 disk groups per host. In the current version of virtual SAN, there are specific requirements and maximums, etc., that you can check on the VMware page. In the next version, there will be a lot more flexibility. So what you do is you have the ability then to create a virtual SAN data store across all the x86 servers that are participating in the cluster. And you have the ability to scale up and scale out, which is very easy. You can either add disks or you can add hosts, and you can apply the policies to the actual storage policy-based management, and you can specify how many copies you want on each host and other SPBM policies that you may want to apply. In addition to that, you do see from a disk management perspective, all the hosts that are participating in the cluster, you have the ability to look at the actual host and how many VMs are participating, how many disks, etc., the total size. In the next version, you will see a lot of enhancements when it comes to the UI and a lot of enhancements to some of the actual reporting and dashboarding and other capabilities. So virtual SAN is deeply integrated into the VMware stack. We do have the ability to utilize vSphere HA, DRS storage vMotion, data protection. We have the ability to use VDP, VDP Advanced, vSphere replication, SRM. Virtual desktop, we have various different Horizon View integrations, etc. vRealize and vCloud automation with vCloud Air and disaster recovery. And then all of that is storage policy-based management, which again you can apply at the VM level. So here are some of the use cases that we see. The number one use case that we see is virtual desktop. And virtual desktop is really a good use case because any storage administrator would love to offload their virtual desktop infrastructure from their storage because today they're over provisioning, they're creating a lot of VMs and LUNs and doing a whole bunch of things like that. They see a bunch of spikes in activity on storage. So they could augment that or offload that and put that in its own arena, allow the VM administrators to manage it, and it gives them an effective way to handle boot storms, login storms, performance needs, etc. In addition to that, we see a lot of Tier 2 production as the second use case. We're really seeing that for customers that want high performance consolidation ratios or specific SLAs that they just can't meet in their current environment. They want to offload them. In addition to that, we also see disaster recovery targets where customers will actually have a different type of hardware or whatever they want to put at a different site that doesn't get used very often. So a lot of customers are looking at virtual SAN for that because the cost is more effective for storage and being able to apply specific policies, as well as use VR and SRM as well. And then the last one is staging and test dev. We really see this as more of a sort of proprietary. It depends on the customers. We see it in web scale. We see it in various different non-mission critical testing arenas and automation in various places like that. So for virtual SAN file services, we show you a couple various different scenarios, and this particular one goes through the product Magnetics. I don't even know how to say that, sorry. But what we're doing is we're utilizing the various different stack, and we talk about the various different use cases and how the benefits of lowering the TCO and some of the things that we do here. In addition to that, we will also talk about Nexenta Connect, and that's out there today. You should be able to see some white papers on that. Really seeing customers that want to separate their existing sort of web management or Active Directory or create management clusters and isolation and provide file services with the ability to integrate NFS and SMB and potentially SIF shares, etc. And they're creating these VDI pods, and we have, like I said, some white papers out there on that. Today there's 3 ways that you can deploy virtual SAN. One is kind of build your own, whatever hardware product that you like, you can utilize, go to the VMware compatibility guide, make sure that all the components meet the criteria, then you kind of build your own and design it. The middle one is virtual SAN ready nodes. We have over 40 OEM vendors that have validated configurations based on 5 different profiles. Those profiles are full clones, link clones, high, medium, and low server workloads. So you have the ability to choose based on your particular vendor, be able to look at that, that particular profile and then that particular vendor SKU and order it. What that does not mean is that it's ready to go. It still means you have to be able to configure your storage controller, set up your disk groups, all the things that you need to do to set up virtual SAN. The third option is EvoRail. And EvoRail is a simplified appliance. I believe James Lafort did a presentation on this maybe last month or a couple months ago. And EvoRail is the ability to order a 1-unit appliance that provides a lot of software-defined data center in a box, if you will. It provides Log Insight, vSphere, virtual SAN, a whole bunch of things, and it allows you to provision VMs based on small, medium, and large, and it's very, very simple. So it's all ready to go. It arrives. You just start the EvoRail wizard engine, and basically you just fill out a couple questions, and in 15 minutes the entire data center in a box is ready to go. So virtual SAN has received many various different customer interests and awards, which I won't really go through. Again, with the software-defined storage, our ecosystem's getting larger, working with different vendors and providing APIs in order to provide the entire software-defined storage solution, from policy-driven control plane, virtual data plane, actual data services with protection, being able to work with these other vendors as well to create those various different APIs. And that concludes my portion. Now I am open for questions.
So first, Noelle, thank you so much for that tremendous walkthrough. And I know that we've got kind of a mixed bag of folks, from what I can tell, on the line today. So there's, those of you that are less technical, those of you that are, more technical. And again, this, was billed out as, a 301 session. So hopefully for, the technical folks that were on the line, you got the content that you were looking for today, and Noelle was kind enough to go well above and beyond expectation here. I had a couple questions of my own, if I may, and maybe this will help anybody else. So one of the questions that comes up a lot with our partners, and keep in mind today kind of the crew that we have, if we're a reseller and we're already selling storage, right? What's the best way to position between virtual SAN and virtual volumes and the other technologies, so that a partner is rounding out their portfolio and not cannibalizing their existing business?
That's a really good question. So I would say that there is definitely a need for each individual possibility in the ecosystem. So there's reasons why somebody may want physical SAN, physical NAS, etc., and not even bring it into vSphere from a virtual volumes perspective. And there's definitely times you would want to have isolated environments for specific workloads. So really, I think it's a matter of the customer's workloads, and it's a matter of what they plan to do with their existing environment. If most customers are just looking at, hey, I already have SAN and I want to grow it because I need more storage, that's still a good possibility that they may want to move to a different platform. And at any time there's potential, I can't remember the name, significant event or a buying decision or something, there's always an opportunity to talk about other possibilities and really understand where they're planning to go in the future. A lot of the customers that we talk to, when we have those discussions, it's really the ease of management and separation, and I don't want to cause a rift between storage and virtualization administrators, because really this ties them together in a way. But there really is kind of that differentiation between what the storage administrators would like to do with their storage versus what the VM administrators need. And once you actually have the conversation of what they're doing, where they're going, and how they're planning to use it, I would say that 80 to 90% of most customers we speak to, and that's a low number, you could have that conversation with almost every single one of them, and they would find a need for virtual SAN. Aside from even talking about vVols at this point, because it's not an available product per se, but just talking virtual SAN. And the main question that I have usually is when I walk into the room, if I'm sitting at the table and half of the table are storage administrators and the other half of the table are virtualization administrators, who do I sell to and how do I sell? That's like the biggest question. Well, each one of them have their own challenges. And the first challenge that the storage administrators have that they would love to get rid of is really VDI, and that is they're over-provisioning, or they create a bunch of LUNs and the VM administrator attaches them and detaches them or forgets about them. There's no historical cleanup. There's a bunch of LUNs sitting out there that they don't even know if they're in use. Being able to understand why they have spikes during the day, how come they're seeing different activity, why do they have to keep adding more storage when it's really not adding storage due to capacity but due to performance. And one of the big things that really excite storage administrators about virtual SAN is the ability to do storage analytics. Now, most true storage administrators are PhDs in analyzing storage and analyzing their network and analyzing their LUNs and their spikes and, constantly looking at it, and most of their day is spent understanding or chasing performance issues. So when you bring it over to virtual SAN and give the storage or the virtualization administrators the ability to now create storage, create VMs, apply policies, be able to change those policies without effectively, opening a ticket to storage, writing storage, telling them this is what I need. One, that gives them the first agreement. Both of them look at each other and they say, that world would be great, love it, right? Second of all, the VM administrators love the simplicity and the ease of use of being able to just create a VM and apply a policy. It's not like they need a storage analytical degree in order to analyze it. However, there is the ability to go through storage analytics and metrics utilizing our virtual SAN and RVC Ruby Virtual Console. So if they really wanted to understand where the read cache hits come from, where the evictions come from, how to analyze the data, how to analyze the host, down to the disk group, down to the actual disk, and where the components are sitting, etc. It has the ability to do that, and they love it. So both of them will come to an agreement, and even when we feel like we're in a room that has so much tension between storage administrators and virtual administrators, and we feel like we just lost the battle, we'll leave and we'll get a call and they want to cut a PO. And it's just the most amazing thing that this product actually bridges the gap between both sides, and they all find at least one use case. So we've had three-peat customers. We've got customers that will start off with a pilot, and then they'll find another project within their company. So it's really understanding your customer's needs, working with the partners, being able to help them understand the real buying power and the real selling needs of the customer for this particular product. I hope that answered your question, Kevin.
Yeah, that's actually really, really great, because I know that comes up a lot.